Peer pressure is social pressure by members of one's peer group to take a certain action, adopt certain values, or otherwise conform in order to accept. Peer pressure is usually faced by teenagers. Why do people give in to peer pressure? People usually give in to peer pressure so they can be accepted by a certain group. They also do not want to be the chicken one in the group. People also give in to peer pressure because everyone else does it too. How does peer pressure affect us? Peer pressure ultimately affects our choices. It affects what we wear, what we say, what we look like, and what actions we choose. Peer pressure can dramatically influence our life choices. How to walk away from peer pressure? We can actually simply just walk away from peer pressure by paying attention to our own feelings and beliefs. We can also use common sense. If we think something's wrong, it probably is. We can also simply say no to our peers and walk away. I'm right, there is good peer pressure. Good peer pressure is when your peers or friends try to push you into doing something good, such as not lying, not doing drugs, or respecting others. Peer pressure isn't always bad. Peer pressure is thought of to be bad, which most of the time it is. Examples of bad peer pressure is when peers pressure you to do drugs, steal, or even murder. You could get into serious trouble with peer pressure, or you could get badly injured. Where peer pressure comes from. Most of the time, peer pressure is usually present in school. Peer pressure can be anywhere, actually. Peer pressure is not only present at school, but it could be present during sports, after-school activities, or even the mall. The difference between good peer pressure and bad peer pressure. Good peer pressure is when your peers are trying to make you do good things that won't hurt you or anyone else. Bad peer pressure is when you are forced to do bad things that can hurt you, such as drugs and some stealing. An example of good peer pressure is when you really want to lie to your parents and your friend is right next to you. And your friend knows that you want to lie too, but is trying to convince you not to lie because she knows it's the wrong thing to do, and that if you lie, it could potentially hurt you. An example of bad peer pressure. When you're sitting at lunch, doing what you're doing, eating your food, and then you're approached by a group. That group comes to you and offers you a cigarette. They keep coaxing and coaxing you. Do you give in or do you not? What can giving into peer pressure do for you? Giving into peer pressure may get you into serious trouble. You could risk your health. You could also be risking your good person reputation by doing something stupid because, quote unquote, someone forced you to do that. What can not getting into peer pressure do to you? If you don't give in to peer pressure, you'll just go on your own way, making the decisions that you believe are right. You also won't be making decisions based what other people tell you to do. You do what you just want to do. That's it. How are you usually approached by peer pressure? You may be approached by peer pressure by force. You could also be approached with peer pressure by coaxing or people trying to persuade you to do something. Another way you can be approached with peer pressure is by blackmail, which is when you technically are forced to do something because they have something against you. What if there is no such thing as peer pressure? If there was no such thing as peer pressure, children wouldn't be introduced to real-world decision-making. They wouldn't be able to know and make their own choices with the pressure of outside sources. We need peer pressure? Yes, we do. We need peer pressure so we can test our consciences and see if we trust them. We also need peer pressure, good or bad, so we can get used to pressure from others, because in reality, every day for the rest of our lives, we will be approached with peer pressure. When should you give in to peer pressure? Yes, I'm actually saying that. You should give in to peer pressure under certain conditions. You should give in to peer pressure when you know your peer is urging you to do something good, something right, and you know. It's as simple as that. Yes, everyone will be coaxing you to do bad things or things that are dangerous. But if you get hurt or caught doing something bad because you were the person who ultimately gave in to the peer pressure, and if you get caught while giving in to peer pressure, it's still your fault. Is peer pressure avoidable? Nope, sorry, it's not. Peer pressure is part of growing up and living. You need the experience of peer pressure. The world is full of it. I'm serious. You're always going to be forced with peer pressure. It's your choice to give in or to not give in. Yes. Did you know you may be a peer pressure too? Yeah. It may be intentionally, it may be unintentionally. All you have to do is keep nagging and nagging and nagging and nagging someone to do something that they may or may not want to do. So catch yourself if you think you're peer pressuring. Okay, let's remember. Okay, peer pressuring is when your peers are pressuring you to do certain actions, deeds, etc. It's your choice whether or not to give in to peer pressure. Peer pressure can be faced anywhere, but normally at school or in a community. Oh, and remember, don't always give in to peer pressure.